In July 1969, just before leaving the Sea of Tranquility, the Apollo 11 crew set down a suitcase-sized panel covered in special mirrors. It might be the most underrated object ever placed on another world. The mirrors are corner hue retroreflectors, shaped so that any light hitting them bounces straight back where it came from, no aiming required. Later Apollo missions added more panels, and Soviet robotic rovers carried reflectors of their own. Ever since, observatories on Earth have fired laser pulses at those little targets and timed the round trip. The feat is absurd, hitting a coffee table-sized object across 250,000 miles, then catching a handful of returning photons. But it works, and it has been working for more than half a century, giving us the moon's distance to millimeter precision. That long, patient data set revealed something no one could have measured before: the moon isn't staying put. It recedes from Earth by about 3.8 centimeters every year, roughly 1.5 inches, about the pace your fingernails grow. That tiny drift, compounded over billions of years, turns out to be one of the great engines of change in Earth's history. So what is pushing the moon away? Nothing is pushing it. Earth is throwing it. The mechanism is the tides. The moon's gravity pulls hardest on the side of Earth facing it, raising bulges in the oceans and, slightly, in the rock itself. If Earth didn't spin, those bulges would sit perfectly along the Earth-Moon line. But Earth rotates once a day, while the moon takes about 27 days to orbit. So our planet's spin drags the bulges slightly ahead of the moon. Now there's permanently a little extra mass sitting ahead of the moon in its orbit, and that mass has gravity. It tugs the moon forward, like a hand on a swing giving a push at just the right moment. A forward pull adds energy to an orbit, and orbits with more energy are bigger, so the moon spirals slowly outward. But physics keeps strict accounts. The angular momentum the moon gains must come from somewhere, and it comes from Earth's spin. The same interaction that lifts the moon acts as a brake on our rotation, so the day gets longer, currently by roughly 2 milliseconds per century. The moon is quite literally stealing our time and using it to leave. 2 milliseconds per century sounds like nothing, but the Earth is old and the arithmetic is merciless. Run the clock backward and the days shrink. The astonishing part is that we can check this against physical evidence, because the planet kept receipts. Some corals lay down a microscopic growth line every day, and their growth also varies with the seasons, so a fossil coral records how many days fit inside a year when it was alive. Devonian corals, from roughly 400 million years ago, show years of about 400 days, which means each day lasted only around 22 hours. Tidal mudflats did their own bookkeeping. Rhythmic sediment layers laid down by ancient tides confirm shorter days, hundreds of millions of years ago. Push all the way back to the moon's birth and the numbers become alien. The leading theory holds that about 4.5 billion years ago, a Mars-sized body struck the young Earth, and the moon condensed from the debris, forming many times closer than it orbits today. The newborn Earth spun so fast that a full day may have lasted only a handful of hours, while a moon looming huge overhead raised tides that dwarfed anything in human experience. Every day since has been a little longer than the one before it, courtesy of that slow lunar retreat. Here is the strangest casualty of the moon's departure, the total solar eclipse. Total eclipses exist because of a coincidence so neat it feels rigged. The sun's diameter is about 400 times larger than the moon's, and the sun also happens to sit about 400 times farther away, so the two disks appear almost exactly the same size in our sky. That's why the moon can blot out the sun so precisely that the solar corona flares into view around a black circle. There's no law of physics behind that match. It's pure timing, and we happen to be alive during the era when the sizes line up. As the moon recedes, its disk in our sky shrinks. Already, when the moon is at the far point of its slightly oval orbit, it can't fully cover the sun, and we get an annular eclipse instead, a ring of fire around the moon that no longer quite fits. As the retreat continues, annular eclipses will gradually crowd out total ones. Estimates vary, but on the order of 600 million years from now, the moon will appear too small to completely cover the sun from anywhere on Earth, and the last total solar eclipse in our planet's history will end totality forever. So is this a slow motion goodbye? Will Earth eventually lose the moon entirely? The honest answer is no, and the reason is elegant. The transfer has a natural endpoint. In principle, Earth's spin would keep slowing and the moon would keep climbing until the day and the lunar month became equal, both lasting about 47 of our current days. At that point, Earth would always show the same face to the moon, just as the moon already shows one face to us. The bulges would line up perfectly, the forward tug would vanish, and the retreat would stop. The two worlds would be locked face to face, frozen in a gravitational stare. But that equilibrium sits tens of billions of years in the future, and the universe won't wait for it. In roughly 5 billion years, the sun will swell into a red giant, transforming the entire neighborhood long before the dance can finish. So the moon never actually leaves. It just keeps edging away from a partner it can never quite let go of. And it has more than earned its keep along the way. The moon steadies the tilt of Earth's axis, moderating our seasons over long timescales, and its tides shape the coastlines and tide pools where early life experimented. Everything in this story is measured, not guessed. The laser ranging is ongoing right now. Observatories still fire pulses at the Apollo reflectors, still count the photons that come home, still lob the drift at about 3.8 centimeters per year. The coral clocks and tidal sediments sit in museum drawers, day counts written in stone. The physics of the tidal handoff follows from the same laws that guide every spacecraft we launch. Put it together, and you get a fact that turns an ordinary evening strange. When you look up tonight, you're seeing the moon farther away than any human before you had ever seen it, and closer than anyone will ever see it again. Dinosaurs watched a bigger moon race through shorter days. Whatever comes after us will watch a smaller moon crawl through longer ones. A day on Earth has never been a fixed thing. It's a number in motion, on loan from the sky, and the moon collects its interest 1.5 inches at a time. Which raises a question for another episode. If the day is stretching, what happens to every clock, calendar and leap second we have built on top of it? Keep watching the sky with us, and we'll get to that.